Hello, beautiful people. Young Buzz, VM7, ME52. We on. Brief summary on Helena Blavasky's Isis Unveiled. Before the veil. Okay, we know that the occult used to study the historic or previous esoteric philosophists of the time, which is what we're doing here. So Helena Blavatsky had a lot of examples like Plato, and from our depiction from the book, she mentions how Plato represents the world as a shadow of object that we see as reality, and how the night to us was the day to the soul, referencing as to how when we go to sleep, the soul is at work. The soul is actually at work when we go to sleep. When the moon is up, it's somehow the sun, and the sun is the moon to the soul. Okay, that's my own, but I'm trying to make sense of what's being said. So apparently there's five parts of initiation. The first part is the previous purification. The second part is the admission to partake arcane rites. Okay, it's all fancy words, but I think you understand. You're basically admitting, you're swearing an oath on the second part of the initiation. And on the third one, it's a revelation. It's a form of you changing and taking those steps. On the fourth part, it's the enthroning or the investiture. So I will elaborate on that further. And then we have the friendship and interior communication with the higher source, the higher creative source. Okay, so Plato had described the binding of the head or the crowning as analogous to authority, which anyone receives from his instructors to lead others into the same contemplation. Can someone explain what that means? Because I'm still struggling to understand what what is he saying, man. So the followers of Plato at that time were a lot, but there were a few that would have suspicions, would question and take further steps instead of just, concluding to his own psychological investigations. And we mentioned Xenocrates as a I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Xenocrates? Is it Xenocrates? Is it you? And then we have Spasias, who is the author of numerical analysis, who's the author of I assume he was also a numerologist. Damn, this word biting my tongue. So the listener to unwritten lectures from Plato, Enfield said that Xenocrates had a lot more in common with Plato as a student, but Aristotle criticized Plato's argument to Pythagoras in the sense that all is numbers and there is no idea that's inseparable from numbers. And this is huge. This is a huge debate because in general, how will we go about in this 3D, man, in this realm without numbers? We need to know how many days there are in the calendar. How we need to measure medicine. We need to measure for architecture. There's numbers everywhere. There's numbers everywhere. You need to be able to count the females you cheating on with. Man, there's numbers in every sense. We are dependent on numbers. We are so dependent that you get to question if everything is even made up of numbers, and if there's a code that you can use to understand how this dimension is working, because it's a bit evident that it's somehow coded. There's a lot of things, man, that we rely on, and one of the basic found foundations of example is numbers. Numbers is it's everything, man. So, but Aristotle also asserted that Plato says there's no real knowledge if the object of knowledge is not carried beyond or above our senses. Could there be a misinterpretation? Just take a thought and think about that. Um, as as basic philosophy says that the human mind is compelled to entertain the same fundamental ideas. The heart is compelled to cherish the same feelings in all ages. So, let it be a rhetorical question about Aristotle's assertions. But, Pythagoras argued the existence of a permanent principle of unity beneath changes of the universe. He argued there's a permanent principle of unity beneath the changes of the universe. Okay, okay. So Aristotle says that the number of the numbers are the first principles of all entities. Okay. Is there correlation between that and what Pythagoras said? Okay. So Reta, another guy, had a formula had said that the formula from Pythagoras should be expressed symbolically. And are you saying that the body squared plus the mind squared is equal to the soul squared? We're expressing it symbolically in that sense, but I can take it further deeper than that. But we just getting started, we're just getting warmed up, so it's not necessary. Anyway, the three guys are basically just supporting the Pythagoras theory, which is that numbers are everywhere, which is that everything is dependent on numbers. In the basic sense. I don't have to get all fancy, intellectual, whatever. This is spirituality. I don't have to. All laws of nature assume form of quantitative statement. Scientists argue because it's even found in experiment as of recent. Okay, not as of recent, maybe somewhere back then ish, but it's not too old, where scientists discovered how every high law of nature has an expression in a quantitative statement. Like, that's how profound numbers are. So we have W. Archer Butler, the world, who says that the world is living in the the arithmetic development, and that it is a realized geometry in repose. So I go back to that quote that I said about philosophers that says that the mind is forever dwelling on the same ideas, and the heart is cherishing the same feelings throughout all ages. There's a correlation with what this dude just said with the arithmetic development. There's this pattern that we keep going back to. Okay, not going back to, but there's just this pattern, this way we think. There's this pattern that we carry out to all the ages. But there's new concepts that are derived from this pattern. You know, it's very, very much astounding. It's very much outstanding. And you know, basically, there's the theory that when the soul we were talking about, the soul that has memories, and which is the soul, right? It has memories. After it created everything, it vanished, it absorbed into supreme soul, and it is unknown of location, void of all form, in such a sense that it has to be reunited with subtle elementary principles. It introduces itself into vegetable or seed, new form, assuming, assuming new form. So this is deep, man. It's continually evolving in the sense that it comes up in new forms. The soul we're talking about, because there's this sense of waking and rest, right? The soul does not stop. When you wake, when you rest, the soul is at work. Is what I'm trying to say. And then I'm not trying to skip that part, man. I'm still trying to understand what's that spiritual text is basically trying to say, because you're saying it introduces itself into a vegetable or seed. Damn, man. This stuff is, it's not for play. So with Cephas, who's the student of Plato, taught, you know, after years of working with the dude, you know that Plato wasn't much a writer. He didn't fancy himself a writer. So a lot of his teachings were unwritten. His lectures were oral. You know what I mean? So he taught five principal elements. The student taught five principal elements to the five regular figures in geometry. Okay, the one never existed until unity with many. The one never existed until unity with many. Okay, and then he said that the manifested dwells only in the circumference, and it's just a reflection of the deity. The deity is the world soul, the supreme soul we've been talking about. So when we break this down, we realize there's so much correlation to esoteric Buddhism and Hermetism from just that text alone, because though those two philosophies, basically some that everything came from one source. Everything came out of this one source, and the unity just came to fruition. Creation was finished from one source. Okay, so scientific thought is immaterial. It's a scientific thought, something that's not materialized, and yet something that's material is a scientific perception. Okay, this is what the scientists um, found out from Helena Blavatsky's suggestions. And then Xenocrates, I'm going back and forth. I have to go back and forth. Xenocrates, I think it's the guy who's the numerical analysis author. He summed up that there's three forms of knowledge: there's thought, there's perception, and then there's intuition. So, what do the five principal elements to the five secret geometry? What is this guy? What does that mean? Well, basically, we have five senses, right? And this we also have three forms of knowledge that I just read. We have the ability to think, we have the thought process, we have the perception into these entities that we were talking about in the previous video, and then we have the intuition with those entities. We don't just see them now there's that form of interaction, there's that form of engagement, and that's intuition. So man, I feel like, man, it's enough for today. It's enough. There's so much that we gotta break down and integrate, remember, you know, and peace, man, love. I enjoyed this, and